All right, what's going on, y'all? I know I haven't uploaded no videos in a minute, but I've been working and doing my business and all that stuff. But this right here, as you can tell from the title of the video, this is how to edit graduation photos. I'm so if y'all don't know, I'm a photographer. I do it pretty much. It's not full time, but I do it a lot. Like I have a lot of shoots all the time. So yeah, we're just gonna dive right in. No fluff, no nothing like that. So I shoot with a Sony A7 III. I used to shoot with a Sony ZV-10, that actually the camera I'm recording with right now. But I started shooting with, when I really got really serious, I started shooting with the A7 III. It's great for photography. I use it for video sometimes, but it's not really great for video. It has a 30-minute cap limit, and y'all know I do a podcast, so it's not really. It has great low light though for video, by the way. But let's get into this graduation shoot. So I'm sharing my screen also, so it'll probably be like somewhere on the screen or something like that. But for me, I edit with Lightroom. I know some people use Capture One, all that stuff. I edit with Lightroom. I also edit with Photoshop. With this particular shoot, I don't really need Photoshop. I'm going to put more videos up as I keep progressing with the different clients and stuff. I don't like using all the clients because sometimes I just like to keep the client how they are. But this was a great shoot. This client was great. Everything was good about this shoot. Good light, everything. So my in camera settings. I'm gonna start with that first. For this photo, my in camera settings was, you can see on the screen, I use my Sony A7 III obviously, and I use a 50 mil, and I was shooting at 1.8. My shutter speed was 1/1000. And my focal length was 50 millimeters. My ISO was at 100. Now I know if y'all been watching a bunch of photography videos and stuff like that, the photographers always say keep your ISO at the native ISO, which my native ISO is 100. Some people say base ISO, native ISO, whatever. Don't get caught up in the technical jargon. But my ISO is at 100. My ISO is at 100 here because obviously I'm outside, and I also had an ND filter on. I have this ND filter right here. This one came from, if I can get it open, this one is from KNF Concept, and this one I think was 49 millimeters, which is like the size of my 50 mil lens. You'll have to have multiple if you have multiple different diameters on your lenses, but mine was a 49 millimeter. I used the ND filter, and it was very bright outside. So with the combination of the ND filter and me raising my shutter speed, it got me a great shot like this. So obviously before you take the photo, before you edit the photo, you want to have a good shot, right? So we're going to some of these photos right here. These photos are already edited, and I didn't have to do a lot with these photos. And if you don't believe me, hold on. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna show you the original photo. That's the original, and that's the edited photo. Like, you really don't have to do a lot when the in-camera settings are very good. For this particular photo, it was almost the same settings. It was 50 mil was my focal length. I shot shutter speed at 1/2500th of a second. My aperture was at 2.8 because I wanted to get everything in frame. The suit was nice, the cap was nice, everything. And my ISO was at native ISO. It was at 100. But yeah, but for this one, I really did not do much at all. We can check out the settings for this one. The exposure, I raised it just a little bit. The highlights, I lowered it down. Had to take a call. I had to take a call from my girlfriend real quick. But yeah, like I was saying with this particular photo right here, I turned down the highlights a lot. The shadows I turned down. I mean, turned up the shadows. I turned up the shadows, and then my white balance. My white balance in my camera, when I have my strobe on, when I have my flash on, I use the 86 AD600 Pro. That's what I use to shoot. I used to use, now you don't always have to use this flash. I use this flash because it's very powerful, and a lot of my shoots are outside. I don't have like an actual studio. If people want studio, we do like studio rentals and stuff like that. But a lot of my shoots are outside in the sun. I have to beat the sun. I have a TT600S, which is just another Godox speed light, and that would work outside. You'd have to just be really close to your subject. But a shoot like this, you could get very close to your subject because it's a tight shot. It's not, it's just torso up shot, so it's a tight shot. But for this one, I use an 8600 Pro. So the lights, and I have a softbox. This one I use a 48-inch softbox. It was an octabox with no grid. So the light was just spilling everywhere. But all that jargon really don't matter right now. You just want to make sure the photo is good so you don't have a lot to edit, right? All right, so let's go back into this photo. But those, and I upped the vibrance just a little bit. So that, and saturation just a little bit. And a pro tip for y'all, use the vibrance first. Use the saturation very, very sparingly. Like, because saturation will blow out your image very, very quickly. So use the saturation very sparingly. If you want to edit your images right and make them as accurate as possible, definitely use your vibrance first, and then you can go down to the color mixer. I'm using Lightroom CC. If you're using like Lightroom Classic or something, I think this is like the HSL tab, but I'm using Lightroom CC. So with this particular photo right here, I didn't mess with any of the colors at all. I let the vibrance do its thing. And all I did was mess with the orange a little bit because that would be the color of his skin. So I wanted the color of his skin to be good, to be natural. This is his natural look. Has a little bit of red in the skin, which is natural. His skin, he's a light-skinned male. So I wanted to make sure everything looked natural. But those are the basics of editing a graduation photo. This was just him with a suit. Another photo like this. Here's the best thing about having your in-camera settings right and multiple shots of the same atmosphere. So with this picture right here, I love it. I love the image. I'm done with it. Boom. So if I'm done with it, all I have to do is right click on this image and I can press, where is it at? Copy, choose edit settings to copy, and it gives me all of these edit settings to copy. I just usually have the profile color, that's all going to be automatic. If I cropped it, I'll have crop and geometry checked. If I removed anything with like generative remove, I would click that. High dynamic range, light, color, effects, detail, optics, all that stuff you wanted to copy. Then you would press copy. I already did it, so I'm gonna press cancel. But then you would press copy, and then you would just go over to the next image with the same settings and the same everything. And down here at the bottom, you would just press paste edit settings, and it would paste the exact same settings. So if you're batch editing, that's a great way to do it, especially for graduation shoots, because you can just go ahead and knock them out. This right here was a 6 package shoot, so I really didn't have that many images to edit, but it was just a great day outside. My ND filter was set to just a little bit dark, so I don't have those harsh shadows. Now right here, this is a little bit a tip for you. Right here in his glasses, you can see the octabox there. Sometimes that happens. You can have them move their head. Like there was more shots of this, but this is the image that the client chose. There was more shots to this, and some of them you can just have them move their head side to side or whatever to get the whatever softbox or whatever lighting tool that you're using out of their glasses. There's things in Photoshop you can get to take out the glasses. A lot of time it looks unnatural. Most of the time I just leave it there. That's totally up to you and totally up to the client, but it doesn't look too bad. I pointed it out so you could probably see it now, but it doesn't look too bad. But I was in the middle of editing this photo right here, so we can do a live edit of what I've did so far. I haven't done anything too crazy so far. This is the original right here, and then I just upped it a little bit. So with this photo, I increased the exposure a little bit. I dropped the highlights a bunch because you really don't want any crazy blotchy white parts in there. I upped the shadows, I upped the whites, I upped the blacks. The white balance was fine. I upped the vibrance a little bit. I haven't touched his skin color yet, but what I did do, and which is always a good thing to do, I went into masking. And the first mask that I did, I masked out. I'm gonna show the overlay so you can see it. I masked out the background. So with the background, I turned the exposure down just a little bit. I turned the shadows down just a little bit. You don't need too much. It starts to look unnatural. You want the photo to, well, depending on how you're shooting. This was a natural type shoot. So you want the photo to look as natural as possible, because then it goes into the uncanny valley where it just looks artificial, and you don't want it looking like that. And the great thing about Lightroom CC, it uses artificial intelligence to mask it for you. It's not the old school days where you got to go in and brush everything and all that stuff. You don't have to do that. And then the second mask I did was of the actual subject. And with that mask, all I did was up the exposure just slightly, and I upped the shadows just slightly. And what that does, that separates your subject from the background, but does it in a natural way. I'm gonna turn this overlay off so you can see it. It does it in a natural way, right? And with this mask, this was his eye, this eye sclera. I never really know how to say it, but this was his eye sclera mask. Basically what I do with this is, there's a bunch of different tips and tricks to do it. But with this, because you can do it in Photoshop, you can have a AI retoucher do it, whatever. But this one, I just highlighted and I bumped the exposure just a little bit so his eyes can pop out in the full frame, right? And then I would go in. This is actually where I left off before I started making the video. So I would go into the person, and then I would go into his iris and pupil, press create that mask. It'll create the mask. Let me bring this down here so I can get it better. You create that mask. You always want to zoom in really close to the eye so you can know exactly what you're doing. And then I like to turn off the overlay, which it should be off already. I don't know why it's still on, but I like to turn off the overlay. And then sometimes I'll just boost the exposure just a little bit. Yep, just like that. And since we're on video, I probably want to show out a little bit. So I normally wouldn't do this, but I'll do this in a video. So you can create another mask and create a brush, just a small brush. I actually want to drop this brush size just a little bit more. Yep, create a very, very small brush. And this is just to bring out the eyes a little bit. You would create there we go. Sometimes, man, it depends on what computer you're using, man. Sometimes it just gets a little bit slow. But you would create another mask. I'm actually going to increase that mask, increase that brush a little bit. And you would just create this computer, I think I'm using all my GPU right now because it's not, there we go. You would just create a small mask under his eyes, and then go zoom out just a little bit. Yeah. Your machinery is definitely, your machinery definitely matters when you're doing this. I done had this Mac for a minute. Now it's time for me to get a new one. But both his eyes, you take those and just create like a little smiley face under his eyes. Boom, that's perfect, just like that. And then what you would do, you would go back to the mask tab, go back to there, and then you would just boost the exposure just a little bit, and it creates that little catch light in his eyes. That's good right there. And it creates that catch light in his eyes. You don't always have to do this because obviously this picture is very far away from his eyes, but you don't always have to do this. But this picture to me looks pretty good. This area at the bottom left is pretty dark, but that's where the light is coming from. So I'm gonna boost this exposure just a little bit. And the last thing I want to do, I want to crop this image to make sure the rule of thirds is good. This is a graduation photo, so you always want to make sure that that rule of thirds is good. I'm actually have it just a little bit over here since he has that hood out. Boom. Make sure it's crop well. Boom, boom, boom. Now, normally when I'm doing like prom photos or things that I know are gonna get posted on Instagram, I will crop it to 4:5. But this one, I'm gonna allow the client to crop it how they want to because I don't know if these are going on Instagram or anything like that. They usually specify it, but if they need to, I can crop it. But in another video, I'll show you like say for this picture right here, if I crop it to 4:5. If I crop it to 4:5, you can see that the picture is going to be very tight. Like there's no space at the top. Like I would have to cut off his hands to make it like that. So I don't want any of that actually. And I would need more room. So what I would normally do, I would go into Photoshop, I would crop it, and then I would generative expand the actual canvas so I can have more room to crop and I can play with it some more. This one I'm not gonna do that because I just feel that this picture does not need it. I'm gonna move it over a little bit, but I feel like this picture doesn't need it. So boom, this picture is good. And also, like I said before, if you have two pictures of the same frame, all I have to do is take this picture, go to choose edit settings to copy, and I'm gonna copy all of them. I'm gonna copy the crop, I'm gonna copy the masking. The only thing that's not gonna crop on the masking is me actually doing the brush strokes because it doesn't know where I did it at. Like if it was an AI mask where I clicked the eyes and I clicked the hair and all of that separately, it would know to look for that. But in this one, it won't copy the brush because it doesn't know where at on this canvas that I did that at. So I'm gonna go to this photo, the next photo. It was pretty much the same settings. I shot this one 1/1000, 1/8 at 100 ISO. My ISO is pretty much always gonna be at 100. So I'm gonna paste it, let it complete a little bit. Y'all don't be shy to use AI in your photos, man. Do not be shy to use AI in your photos to help you. Don't just be making AI photos and stuff like that. No, no, no. Don't be shy for it to help you. So the first thing I'm gonna do is crop this image. And if y'all can't see it, but I have my iPad on the right side that has the full image. I could probably just show y'all. Yeah, I have my iPad on the right side that has the full image where I can see the photo in full even when I'm cropping it. So yeah, I'm gonna crop this image. I may come in just a little bit on him. Yep. And I use the rule of thirds, but I also use just the natural eye. Like I use the rule of thirds when I'm on. There's a lot of shadows in here. I use my rule of thirds when I'm on the actual grid, but on my iPad it doesn't show the actual line, so I just use the natural just my eye, just the natural eye. All right, so for this one, the highlights are down a lot already, so I don't want to start breaking the image to make it look crazy. So I'm going to probably drop them highlights some more. So I know I can see obviously in his face right here, there's a lot of white in his face. So I'm gonna take a mask, I'm gonna go to people, and then AI is gonna automatically do it. And then I'm gonna go to facial skin. I'm gonna create that mask, create, and I'm gonna drop some of them highlights out of his face because he has a lot of highlights in his face, just slightly. You always want to do all your edits just slightly unless you really, really have to bring something back or take something out. You always want to do your edits really, 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 really slightly because if not, it just becomes unnatural. So obviously you don't want to be editing your photo too much anyways because it means you really didn't take a good picture. But you want to make sure that when you do edit, you edit very, 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 very slightly. This picture actually is pretty good. If this wasn't a graduation picture, I would probably add a vignette, just a slight vignette, if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. I would just add a slight vignette, and I'm actually going to add that vignette. And then if you want to make them stand out really, I usually don't do this in male photos just because a lot of males perceive their photos differently than women perceive their photos. So like with males, I usually don't go crazy on the retouching. Like they just want their skin to be their skin unless they specifically ask like, hey, can you take these pimples or blemishes or anything out? I usually don't do that. With women, I automatically do that just because the reception that I get usually when I do that is pretty good. Not usually, all the time. When I do it all the time, it looks pretty good. So I generally always do that for women, but I just don't do it for I don't do crazy retouching for males because they just like how it is. All right, I was about to do something and I forgot. I added the vignette. I did that. Oh, I was gonna separate the background a little bit more to make it blend because he's popping out a little bit more than I want him to. So I'm gonna go to the mask and then I'm gonna go back to the background. Yeah, there we go. And I'm gonna bring that background in just a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And then I'll take him and then drop his exposure just slightly. Boom. And just like that, we have the photo. So just to recap, when you editing graduation portraits or anything like this, you want to make sure your in camera settings are good. You want to make sure your in camera settings are good first. You want to make sure you have a great photo first so you don't have a lot to work with when you get to this editing stage inside of Lightroom. Y'all let me know if I missed anything. You know, I'm always learning. As a photographer, you want to be always learning because if you know everything, you don't know anything, right? So I'm always learning. So if y'all got some tips and tricks in the comments, let me know. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and hopefully I'll be back with more. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Peace.